I'm the executive officer here in the Disability Service. We'll do this presentation. It should only be around 30 minutes, and then we'll have time at the end for questions. You should have a chat box there that you can add your questions throughout. I can't give you the function of unmuting, so it'll have to be through the chat, and we'll have the Q&A section at the end there for about 20 minutes. You can send those questions throughout, so whenever you have a question, just send that into the box. Amy is also here. I'll do a little introduction in a second, but Amy's one of our OTs, our occupational therapists. So the agenda for this session, we're going to do a little introduction, like I said. We're going to talk about what the disability service here is in Trinity. Then we'll discuss the staff at Trinity Disability Service that are here to help disabled students. We'll talk about the disability categories within the service when registering. And then we'll talk about the supports offered for the service, which is probably the most important thing. We'll go through quickly how you can register with the Disability Service, then the Lens report, which is given after you've registered with the Disability Service, and then we have the orientation information. So if you accept a place in Trinity, the orientations you can attend. And then, like I said, we had the Q&A after that. So an introduction to myself, I'm the executive officer here at the Disability Service, which means I kind of deal with the admin side and help with students registering and so on. Another thing about me is that I attended Trinity and I entered through the DARE scheme. So I have dyspraxia and I did BES, so Business and Economics, and I was a DARE recipient. So I got offered my place through the DARE scheme with the reduced points scheme. So I'm open to answering any questions about that as an experience, as a student with experience of using DARE. Although I might not have the right questions, hopefully or the right answers, I'll hopefully be able to give you some advice. And of course, then the aim of the presentation is to give students an opportunity to understand the disability service and how we can help you with your college experience. But it's also just to kind of introduce you to a service and kind of staff here to support you and have a familiar face if you accept an offer here. All right, so what is the disability service in Trinity? So we're all non-teaching members of staff. So what that means is we don't have any involvement in courses, in teaching, or anything like that. There's multiple staff and multiple teams within the disability service. I think there's about 15 of us now, and I'll go through that in the next slide. But what we do is we make sure that disabled students have the opportunity to access education as the same way as abled students are. So the staff at Trinity Disability Service. So we have 5 kind of teams of staff here. We'll start with disability officers. So what they do is they carry out needs assessments, which sounds daunting, but it's not. It's just once you've registered, the disability officers review your application to make sure that the right supports are put in place. We'll go through what those supports are in the following slides, but they're the kind of main point of contact you might have within the service. And then if there's any issues, unlikely, but any issues with implementing those accommodations, the DO will advocate for you and kind of be that point of contact for you. Then we have occupational therapists here in Trinity. There's a lot of different versions of occupational therapists, but the ones that we have here are to help you manage the student role. So this can be done in multiple different ways, such as maybe routine formation. So being able to manage your routine during the academic year, and it's not just to do with how you perform academically. The student role includes also in-course so like your lectures and also managing engaging in social and leisure activities. So that might be just making friends in college or participating in societies, leisure societies. Then academic support specialists, we have one, Fionn is his name. So Fionn has the tools to help students with disabilities manage their academics. So rather than this be a tutor, this is more so Fionn would help maybe with collaborating to make a student study timetable or provide the necessary tools to maybe write an essay or maybe prepare for an exam. Then we have a mental health social worker here, Kirsten. Kirsten works with students to connect with services across Trinity and externally. And by that, I mean she works kind of with the social role. So that might be students having difficulty with housing, finances, etc. So she will help you connect with maybe the services across Trinity and externally as well. And then finally, we have the assistive technology officer. This guy Andrew works with students to help them access college using various technologies. So maybe, for example, students might have difficulty reading, so they might use a text-to-speech software, or they might have difficulty reading in black and white. So he can offer software that develops into alternative formats. So it might be on colored paper or it might be maybe to read aloud. So he works with students then for them to allow to access those softwares and study apps that might be needed. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but this presentation will be sent out to you in just after this, so you'll be able to access these links to have more information. So who can register with the Disability Service? It's really important to note, I know some of you here have received DARE application or DARE access. So you have the required documentation for applying for supports. But it's important to note that we don't require confirmed diagnosis. So if you have a suspected disability, whether that be maybe you feel like you might have ADHD and your GP says maybe you don't need to then get formally diagnosed to access supports here. We don't want to add additional barriers to college that already has them. You also don't have to have received supports in school to receive supports here in Trinity. Some of you may have access to maybe extra time in the Leaving Cert or low distraction venues. You don't have to have received them to receive supports here in Trinity. The disability categories are as follows. Do we have autism, ADHD and ADD, blind and visual impairments, deaf and hard of hearing, neurological conditions, physical disabilities, mental health conditions, significant ongoing illnesses, dyspraxia and DCD, and specific learning difficulties. Within specific learning difficulties, that's where dyslexia and dyscalculia and so on would fall under. So what supports do the Disability Service offer? So we've broken it down into kind of six sections that you may need help with. Of course, there's more nuanced things, but this is kind of a general idea of what we offer. So placement, so students who are doing professional courses such as maybe medicine, pharmacy, nursing will do placements. So we offer planning for those placements where you meet with the disability officer to create what's called a PLENS, which is a placement lens. We'll go into more about what lenses are in the next couple of slides, but that's whether you might need help with maybe extra supervision during your placements or extra time doing your reports for your placements. We also have disability internships. So we work with the Career Service in Trinity to offer internships around Trinity and the different services for disabled students. Then we have the next section, meeting deadlines. So as I said before, occupational therapists might help you with this. So maybe that's creating a timetable for your routine, and an academic support if the deadlines, you might want to create a timetable for an academic timetable. Then doing exams, this is where exam accommodations might come in. We'll discuss exam accommodations in detail again in the next slide, but this might be additional time, different venue options. So in Trinity, when you're taking exams, there's usually up to 500 people within that venue. So you might want to have a reduced number of students within your exam venue, and that can be offered to you. And then assistive technology, like I've said prior. Meeting other students, like I've said, we don't deal with just academics and maybe in-course accommodations. We also want to help you with the social side of college, which is just as important. We have many support groups here in the disability service, such as the autistic peer support group and the ADHD one. They're both run by the disability service by disability officers here. We have the cookery group run by an OT here, and that works with students in first year for to develop cooking skills while they have maybe moved away from home and might not know the necessary skills to manage the occupation of cooking. And then we have the Neurodiversity Society, which is a society within Trinity set up by a neurodivergent person that allows other neurodivergent people to meet and make friends. Managing your environment, it can be daunting to step into Trinity, a campus that can be quite big. We have TCD Sense, which was made by a neurodivergent student, which is a map of the college that shows maybe the sensory areas of the different colleges. I'm not sure if I have that on the next slide, but maybe Amy, if you're here, you could add that in. It's really it can be really helpful to see before you even step foot on Trinity. So I'd recommend looking at that. We have additional needs accommodation for disabled students applying for on-campus accommodation or Trinity Hall accommodation. This is for students that may need maybe accessible rooms, etc. So they can apply through a different route. We have the 1916 bursary, which is for students in financial need, disabled students in financial need. We have the Safe Zone app, which is run by Trinity, which connects you with emergency services if there is an emergency on campus. And then looking after yourself, which is of course so important. We again have occupational therapy. We have the social work side, and then we can connect you with other college supports, such as maybe student counselling or college health. And then we have the ADHD clinic, which is part run by Amy, who is here, an OT. Correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, but this is for students who have are receiving medication for their ADHD and have maybe can't supply it from maybe another country or another county, and she works with them to get their prescription along with college health. So those are the links. Once I send you the presentation, you'll be able to click on those. So how do you register at the Disability Service? I understand that a lot of you might not even have accepted a place in Trinity, so this might be a bit overwhelming. I want to go through it just so you can understand maybe the process, but it's not expected at all of you to remember any of this. And it's all on our website step by step, including a video, so you'll be able to see that. But just to give you an idea so that if you have any questions at the end, you can ask us. So registration for the disability service is run through the TCD portal, which is where you would access your timetables and your exam results. The application is under My Disability Service tab. You'll select a primary and secondary disability. Now, you might only have one disability or you might have multiple. That's why we have a primary and secondary. So if you have a dual diagnosis or maybe you have a diagnosis of dyspraxia and anxiety, you can put those down. If you've more than two, you can put that in then in the comment section below. Then you can choose to receive exam accommodations. So, like I've mentioned before, that might be a lower distraction venue or extra time. You might not need these. You might just say, for example, only want occupational therapy, and not need any in-course or exam accommodations. Then you will upload your evidence of disability. So this can be, if you're a DARE student, you would just upload those same documents. If you feel like you have a suspected diagnosis, maybe you will have a GP referral letter, which is sufficient enough for us. I wanted to go through these questions. So there's two questions here that are not checking a box. So it's just kind of describing the impact and the supports you might need from the disability service. It's important to note that these can be updated at any time. I understand with college, many of you probably have never attended college before. So after a year, you might realize I actually do need help with attending classes for whatever reason. So these can be changed at all times. So it's not permanent to when you've put these in that that's the only supports you need. Impact of your disability. So this again does not need to be the be all and end all. This can always be changing. But describing your impact. So for example, I might say I have a real issue with dyspraxia of the sensory environment during classes. I find that really overwhelming. You can put that down. You might say I find it really overwhelming with my social anxiety for making new friends. That's involved in the student role again. You might say, I can't focus on exams. I get really bad anxiety. You can put that down. Whatever you think would impact your college experience, including maybe the social side and the leisure side, you can put in this comment section. It's a 500 character limit or word limit. I'm not too sure. So if you feel that there's more to add, you can always add that in the additional notes or with an email. Then you'll also be asked to the supports you may find beneficial, or previous supports you might have had in the past. So previous supports, like I mentioned, maybe for the Leaving Cert you had a low distraction venue, or you had extra time in exams, but you might not have ever had exam supports and are unsure. Within this, we give a list of possible supports you may want. So you can look at those and maybe add those and see, yeah, I think I might benefit from occupational therapy down the road or assistive technology. So we have, for example, exam accommodations, like I've said before. In-course accommodations might be you find it really hard to keep up in exam in lectures, so you might want to have permission to record lectures, which is allowed, or you might need lecture slides given in advance. Disability service accommodations then might include receiving occupational therapy or academic support. And then placement accommodations, like I said before, if you're on a professional course, you might need maybe extra time with handing in your reports, etc., like I've said before. And then we'll move on to your LENS report. So a LENS report is once you've registered with the Disability Service, this is the report you will receive to confirm your accommodations. This LENS report then is given to, if you're receiving, say, for example, exam accommodations or in-course exam accommodations, it's given to your school or course of choice. So your lecturers will receive this to ensure that they put your accommodations in place. Again, like I said, your LENS can be reviewed at any time, so don't be afraid to email us, say, if you realize after first year, oh, I find it really hard now to make friends, and I thought I wouldn't find it hard, or I didn't even think this would be an issue, but it is now. You can change your LENS up until, you know, your final semester of fourth year if you need it, so please be aware of that. And every lens is individual and reflects particular circumstances. So not every lens is the same. No lens is the same. Now, if you accept a place at in Trinity College Dublin, we will be sending out emails and we'll have things on our Instagram, on our social media that will show our orientations. But we host a neurodivergent orientation session. These are for students who may feel that they might benefit from having maybe a smaller group and a neurodivergent friendly group orientation that would suit them before going into the bigger general course orientation. So we have two of those sessions that are the exact same, but we have, due to the high need, we have two of those. And then we have the general orientation, which is probably will be similar to this talk, but it is on September 11th. And then I believe you'd start your general orientation on the 14th. And you can scan there, or I believe Amy has sent that in for if you've any other accessibility needs or questions on that, you can send in an email through there. And then to contact us, you can reply to our email that we sent out, or you can use askts@tcd.ie. We also have our phone number there. This is all on the website as well, so you can click on that website or Google Trinity Disability Service